It is Sunday, February 17th, 2013. I am in the second portion of my protest against Unitarian Universalist injustices.
Hi, what happened?
What?
What happened? Why are you having no I'm not even a Unitarian.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I had two main issues. One is anti-religious intolerance and bigotry on the part of the atheist members of the church. Not all of them, but some of the atheists are very intolerant. If you believe in God, they think you're stupid. If you believe in God, they think you're mentally ill if you claim a religious experience and so on. And the other issue, which is related to that, is clergy misconduct. And when a minister behaves badly and you file a complaint, they usually do nothing, and then they come after you for complaining about the minister. So,
okay.
Just like other churches.
No, I don't know too much about the Unitarian Church or
Right.
other churches.
Right.
But I mean, I know that they don't really believe in much of anything, right?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because that is a stereotype, and in some ways it's true. I mean, basically, the way I feel is I'm out here because they don't even believe what they claim to believe in.
You mean like
in other words, they claim, for instance, if you're inside...
Universal values or rights of man or human rights?
As you may have noticed, if in the lobby, you were in the church, right?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Yeah, in the lobby they have this metal sculpture with the 7 principles. So they have 7 principles, which they claim to affirm and promote. So they do have certain claimed beliefs, but you're right that my point is that they claim these beliefs and then they betray them.
Oh, okay. But do you think that they're like involved with, I don't know, maybe they support, I don't know, terrorists or something?
No, I'm not saying that.
Just a general question. Yeah.
I'm not aware of any Unitarian support for...
Because there are groups that say they are human rights, secular groups that say they are human rights.
Right.
And then they say, no, I'm with Hamas, I support Hamas.
Right. No, I know what you're saying. And you know what? There's definitely a pro-Palestinian, and if you want, anti-Israel faction. There are Unitarians that are like that, and some of them may, in one way, they may be indirectly supporting terrorist groups and so on. It's possible. But I think you could find the same thing in other churches too. I'm not aware of Unitarians, actively supporting a terrorist group per se.
No, I was just talking about the group as a whole.
There may be some people, but as a whole, no. No, they tend to be, liberal, left wing. But again, my point is that they just do not practice what they preach. They claim what little they preach, like you said.
For example, maybe I don't know too much about their beliefs, but maybe they think all religions are the same, and
no,
that's not true.
No, and in fact, quite the opposite. And one of the reasons I'm protesting, as I said, is anti-religious intolerance and bigotry, and especially the atheists. They believe other religions are bad. The current president of the Unitarian Church in Boston, when he ran to be president, he had a speech announcing that he was running to be president, and in that speech, he described Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and other old religions as obsolete religions created for another time that lead to things like tribalism and oppression and prejudice and so on. So it's completely negative attack on all the other religions, except for Unitarian Universalism. He didn't name, all of the other old religions, but he basically, when you say obsolete religions, you're effectively saying that these religions are no longer of any use.
That's the word.
So he basically he trashed Judaism, Christianity, Islam across the board, like not one element of it, not one sect, but the whole thing, just like obsolete religions. So no, a lot of Unitarians
because you know the thing with atheism is that if if everything ends, you know, with this after we die,
right?
And you can really do anything and just get away with it.
Well, exactly. That is one of the big problems that I also find.
Hitler killed 6 million Jews, and
well, he wasn't necessarily an atheist, but
no,
you know,
not that he was an atheist.
Yeah.
But I mean, if atheism is true, there's no God, then he got away with
exactly.
it.
There's no accountability
Justice,
after you die, and that is, I think, a big problem with atheists in general, is that because they believe that when you die, that's it.
Yes.
Then they do believe that if they can delay justice, if they can put it off until they die, then nothing happens. You know? They got away with it. So you made a very valid point, and I think actually this is part of the reason why my protest has been going on so long, because a lot of the members here are atheists, and I'm sure they believe that, oh, if we can just delay and delay and delay and delay, you know, and eventually, you know, we'll get away with it.
Well,
I'm sure that's part of their attitude. You know, it's like they don't think in terms of, you know, if I die and I go into the afterlife, I might find some accountability there. They never think about that.
Because you can be an atheist and, you know, help people, but in the end, you're not you're doing it because I mean, there's no real reason to be good. I mean, if you don't feel like it.
It depends.
I think you feel good, but.
Well, I think in a way one could almost say it's more noble to do good just for the sake of doing good than to do good because of thinking you might be punished if you don't do good. So in a way you could say that, you know, if atheists are doing good, that it's almost more noble than, let's say, a Christian who's doing good because he's afraid of going to hell.
But the thing is that, how can I say it? That's how do you define good? Because for one atheist or being racism is good, it's okay. For another, it's bad. So if an atheist,
well, I think you could almost say the same thing though for religious people too. I mean, if you read the Bible, there's a certain amount of racism in there, you know, which is supposedly, you know, sanctioned by God. You know, God tells the Jews to go and kill that group of people or that group of people, but nonetheless, you're right. There are, you know.
Because what is good and what is, I mean, who decides what is good is what is
bad?
Right now,
and obviously, from an atheist standpoint, atheists would say, well, human beings decide. You know, like human beings create the morality. So they would not agree that morality comes from God because they don't believe God exists. So we're having a good discussion here.
So yes, the thing is, you know, before slavery was considered to be normal, you know.
Right, and even in the Bible, it's considered normal. I mean, it's acceptable in some parts. In other parts, it's not, because there was the whole thing of Moses taking the Jews out of Egypt. It was obviously against slavery. But in other parts of the Bible, it's basically accepted.
So I mean, if there's no real good or no real bad, I mean, then any person somebody who has power, they can say, okay, I'm going to legalize slavery. You know?
Absolutely,
And another person can say, no, that you're wrong. You understand? And then
it's called moral relativism. And actually, this is one thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is one thing that this church, this religious community, has a big problem. They seem to think that they can just make up the rules to suit themselves. I've been protesting for a long time, and they change the rules to you know, to make it, to get rid of me and so on. For instance, when I began my protest, one of the reasons I began it was because the rules of the church were, they had this thing called disruptive behavior. They set it up to try to make me quiet, because I was giving letters to church members. So they threw me out for 6 months for distributing letters to the church members saying we have a problem we need to fix, you know. And the rules of the church said that if the so-called disruptive behavior continues, then the next step is to hold a congregational meeting and to vote on whether or not to throw this person out of the church, to terminate their membership. And they needed to get a 2/3 vote to throw someone out. So when I began my protest to try to force them to do that. to make them have the meeting, to make them have the vote, to get it out in the open and deal with it. But they knew, when I first began protesting, that they weren't sure that they were going to win.
Yeah.
So what they did is they kicked me out again temporarily for 1 year.
Well, okay.
And then they kicked me out again for another. In other words, they pushed it a year and a half down the road, and in that year and a half they lobbied everyone and they spoke to everyone, and when they knew that they had enough people that they could be sure that if they held a meeting to kick me out, they kicked me out.
No, that's
So,
that's not
no, but
ethical.
But it's
so,
not.
yeah,
it's totally immoral, and that's what I'm saying is.
It's like more like political maneuvering. You know,
absolutely, and this is what happened, and they're doing it. They have in the past charged me with disruption of a church service. This is after I started protesting. I'm out here. I've got my picket signs. I'm walking back and forth. I'm not making noise. If you look at the church, you see that they cannot see me inside the sanctuary area. There's a few slit windows and that's it. But they nonetheless, there's a law, and well, what they first tried to do, they tried to get an injunction. They tried to go to the judge and say, tell this guy to stop protesting.
Okay.
But we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It says, I have a right to protest.
Freedom of speech,
So they were told the only way that you can get an injunction to prevent the protest is if the person is doing something of a criminal nature. So they went looking for what they could, find, and they found this law, and it said disruption of church service. So they had me arrested. I went to trial, and in the end I was acquitted because it was baloney, but they tried to use that law to force me not to be able to protest. And so they're always doing things like this. And when you complain, you say that the minister behaved in this abusive manner, and they say, oh, no, the minister can do that. And then if you do the same thing just to give them a poke, just to teach them a lesson, they turn around and they say, oh, no, you can't do that.
It's not
a perfect
what they preach.
No, it's the absolute opposite. And the most recent thing that has happened, and it's hilarious, it's very funny actually, and this is from the main office in Boston. It's not from the church locally, it's from the big head office in Boston. In June of last year, I received an email from a big law firm, Stikeman Elliott.
Okay.
And it's a cease and desist demand letter. It says, stop this, stop that, It accuses me of sexual harassment.
Oh, no.
But get this, it accused me of sexual harassment because I said a very hypocritical minister sucks and blows at the same time. Now that is not sexual. That means sucking in air and blowing out air at two contradictory actions.
Yes.
But nonetheless, because the word sucks has sexual connotations, they are trying to say that it's sexual harassment. But the only reason I even used that term was because a minister had said Republicans suck. Like all Republicans suck. And so I did this just to teach them a lesson. So this minister, it was very rude and offensive and said, Republicans suck. And I actually filed a complaint.
But the minister said it in one of the...
In a blog post, okay? So she put it on the internet. So I actually filed a complaint against the minister, and it was totally ignored. They did nothing. They didn't reprimand or anything. And so I decided, I'm going to use, actually you'll see the word sucks on some of my picket signs. So I sort of threw it back at them because I knew that they would say, oh, that's very rude, And I said, well, you let your ministers use the word, why can't I, So anyway, they accused me of sexual harassment. So I'm going, well, why is it sexual harassment when I say a hypocritical minister sucks and blows at the same time? But it's not sexual harassment when someone says all Republicans suck. It's hypocrisy. It's double standard. It's double. Exactly. It's very frivolous. So that was one accusation, and like you said, childish, frivolous, which I said to the. It is. I said that to the lawyer. I said this is totally frivolous. The other thing they accused me of sexual harassment was another minister, very offensive. She was angry at a Republican senator who did say some things that were of an offensive nature regarding abortion. He was anti-abortion, and he said some things concerning abortion and rape and so on that were of a, they were somewhat offensive. So what she did, instead of responding in a reasonable manner, she went ballistic, as we say. She went very angry blog post. And in her blog post, her exact words, not all of them, but one phrase in particular, one sentence, she said, "Here's my sodomy fantasy. Senator Bill Napoli anally impaled on the Statue of Liberty's torch." So she's basically saying, I want to see this senator anally impaled up the ass on, exactly. Now, she's not saying she really wants that to happen, but she nonetheless presents this imaginary scenario, of a senator anally, and that's a form of execution. When you anally impale someone on a, you're killing the person. So again, it's not something that she obviously really wanted to do, but she said this. So I blogged about this. I criticized her. And the letter that I got from the UUA, they're accusing me of sexually harassing her because I'm talking about her sodomy fantasy.
Oh, no, that's...
It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
But I'm not finished. The final thing that they accused me of was a crime, blasphemous libel. So it's kind of like how they accused me of disrupting church service, like totally bogus. But anyway, they accused me of blasphemous libel. Do you know what the reason was?
Oh, that you insulted.
No, don't guess. I'll tell you exactly the reason. I have blogged about a few cases of rape and pedophilia.
Yes.
And these are very well documented cases.
Okay.
Anyway, in the legal letter that I received, it says, and this is an exact quote, your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are defamatory. And then it goes on to say, to the extent that it constitutes this crime of blasphemous libel. So what they're saying you're false allegations.
Yes.
But no, my allegations are based on newspaper reports. So they're saying I am lying about Unitarian Universalist ministers engaging in rape and pedophilia, when in fact I'm telling the truth, and they're accusing me of this archaic crime, which is basically, they're saying I'm insulting the religion.
And those cases were in the U.S., right? I mean, they're not in Montreal, right? Because this is the only...
That's right. These were in the U.S., and I'm talking about actually everything, all of it, in terms of the letter I received, it's all about American ministers and Americans, and they're trying to apply Canadian criminal law against that. It's insane, but that's nonetheless. I mean, they can. I think because it is a religion. If I really was,
as tolerant, as they say,
No, but what I'm getting,
they would have already solved the problem a long time.
Exactly. No, and that's my point is, and one of the reasons I keep doing this is like I'm looking at my watch for like 15 years, saying how long is it gonna? How long? I'm like basically saying, I'm gonna keep this up until you finally capitulate, and then I'm gonna say, why did it take you 20 years?
But the one that's right now, Roller. I think she's the one.
She's new,
She's new.
Relatively.
Okay.
She's been there now since, I think, 2008 or...
But, I mean, hasn't she... I thought she would, with a new person, she would solve the... Or she doesn't have any power.
Well, that's an interesting point, because
can want to solve it,
Well, I'll tell you something. You see, that's what I thought. When she... First of all, when I heard the minister who attacked me was leaving, I said to the church, you should clean up the mess before he goes, so the new minister doesn't have to deal with it. So you should solve this before he leaves the church, so that when the new minister comes, it's settled. You don't have to worry about it. But no, they ignored me. The way the Unitarian Church works is there's always an interim minister between two ministers. So there was another temporary minister for 1 year. He did nothing.
Oh wow!
And I invited him. I said, so what happened? Reverend Rollert arrives. So when she was coming in, I sent her an email, and I told her, I said, look, you know, you've probably been told lies about why I'm protesting. You should talk to me so you learn the truth and understand what it's all about, so we can settle this. You might want to step on the sidewalk. So I sent her an email, and in the email, I told her there are some actions that I've held in reserve.
Yes.
And by that I meant there's some protest things I can do that I haven't done, that if you decide not to talk to me, I can do. And I didn't hear back from her.
Oh, but did you send it twice? Sometimes
I sent it once, and then what happened is I'm coming to church one morning, and I met her. She stepped onto the metro. I always come in the metro. She came into the same metro car.
Yeah.
We were walking along the road here, and at the corner there where the car is, I stopped. She was behind me. I turned around and I said, "Did you get my email?" And she said, "Yes, Robin, I got your emails."
Okay.
And I said, I can't remember exactly what I said, but she said that basically there's nothing I can do or nothing I will do, you know, like it's all settled kind of thing, you know. So like you said, you know, she, I think, was in a sense powerless, and that maybe even if she did want to do something, the main leadership, you know, the board and so on, said no, you know. But nonetheless, after that discussion that I had with her, what she did to try and force the end to my protest, same thing. She went to the police.
No.
She claimed that I had screamed at her, which I had not done.
Yeah.
I did raise my voice a bit because she walked away from me, and you know, she's like 30 feet away, so I raised my voice a bit. I talked loud to, you know, just let her know, hey, we do have a problem, it should be solved. But she accused me of screaming at her, and then she pretended that this section of the email where I said I have held actions in reserve was a threat against her personal safety. So she sought a restraining order against me to prevent me from coming to church, you know, basically to stop my protest. So as it happens, she got one of the worst judges in Quebec, which worked in her favor, because it was a judge who's like very hard-nosed, and basically the judge gave her the restraining order on the basis of nothing, you know. But it's for 1 year. And so when the judge gave the restraining order, as I'm walking out of the courtroom, I said, "Thank you for the holiday." In other words, I will be back when it's over. And as you can see, I'm back.
I
So.
say,
But,
a person using common sense would have handled it a different way.
yeah, they're not using common sense.
They would have, got together with you, say, for several times.
Yeah,
You know,
they won't even talk to me. Just this morning, there was a guy who about, let's say, a month ago,
yes.
he said something to me, and I told him, you know, they refused to talk to me. And I said, to every president of the church, I have made the offer. I will suspend my protest. I'll stop protesting for 2 full months, as long as you agree to enter into dialogue to try to settle the dispute. And of course that can extend as long as the talks are going well. It can, you know, I'm not protesting, you know. But it's always been rejected, you know.
That's illogical.
Yeah, no, it is. They don't want to deal with the truth. They don't want to admit we fucked up. They don't want to admit we have intolerance. We have clergy misconduct, and we let it happen. We don't discipline the minister. They don't want to admit all this stuff.
From what you've seen, the misconduct, clergy misconduct, it's not something major, but it would be something.
Well,
like,
it depends.
You know,
Some of it, in terms of my case.
Would you think that somebody made $2,000? No, in that sense.
Well, there's been rape, there's been pedophilia.
Okay. In the US,
not here, yeah. I mean, no, but yeah, there have been very bad cases. And I think in my case, in terms of what the minister did, it was extremely intolerant. I mean, when you label someone's activities as a cult, that's almost like accusing someone of being a witch. You know, 200 or 300 years, like they're dangerous. They're a danger to the society, and we have to get rid of them. You know, it's extremely intolerant, and it's slander. I mean, an interreligious event cannot possibly be a cult because it's a bunch of different religions getting together. It's not one leader, you know.
Yeah, you know.
So it's just
with a cult, I think, is that they try to force you to stay in or something
exactly,
like
yeah.
that.
So it was just pure slander, and they let it happen. You know, when this first started, all I wanted was an apology and a change of attitude, obviously, but no. So I'm just going to fix the picket signs here because they're blowing over. So
I don't think it's going to happen after
no,
4 years that Roller has been, you know, in.
Yeah.
But hopefully.
Well, what I was saying is this guy, I told him, I told him that situation. So he said, I will talk to the steering committee and I will tell them that offer one more time.
Oh, okay.
So I saw him this morning going in and I said, so did you tell them? And he said, yes, no takers. In other words, they don't want to talk, you know.
No, but I think you're doing the right thing.
I think so, yeah.
Otherwise, one has to do what act according to one's convictions.
Yeah, conscience or whatever. And in fact, like there are some other ministers who know the situation, and one in the beginning of this protest, she referred to my protest as your alternative spiritual practice. So she recognized that the protest itself is a kind of spiritual practice, you know. So that was a compliment, and that was like many years ago. More recently, another minister who's very familiar with, you know, clergy misconduct, especially the sexual stuff, she sent me an email just before Christmas, I think a year ago now, like not this Christmas, but the one before. And in it, she said, we appreciate your prophetic work. So, you can't ask for better than that. You know?
Personally, very few people are even more or less members of Unitarian.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know what the number is worldwide? Or 1 million?
I can't. Oh no, nowhere even close.
Half a million?
Maybe. The official membership for the United States, which is where most of them are, is 165 adult members. And 165,000 adult members, and so many Sunday school kids. You know, so a total of a little over 200,000.
Yeah. Okay.
But that is official membership. That is not attendance.
Yeah, attendance.
Attendance.
Double or?
No, other way. 100,000.
Oh, okay.
On any given Sunday in the United States, and we can probably throw in Canada too, because there's only like 5,000 in Canada.
Well, in all of Canada.
In all of Canada, there's about 5,000. So the whole thing, all of North America, on a Sunday, maybe 100,000. Maybe a little bit more than 100,000 total. So it's a very, very small religious community. The current president...
Because they have their website, so I think...
Yeah, well, they have a website and everything, but
they have articles against the Trinity.
Yeah. Well, no, because they are anti-Trinitarian.
Yeah, that's what I. Yeah. At first, I didn't know. When I saw it, I thought maybe it's a different Unitarian because they don't even seem.
No, the meaning of the word Unitarian. Exactly. It's like a Muslim, you know, or Jehovah's Witness, you know. Yeah. Now, but there's I think a difference between not believing in the Trinity and being anti-Trinitarian. Okay. It's like you can be not Catholic or you can be anti-Catholic. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's one thing to just say I don't believe this.
Yeah.
It's another thing to say I'm against this.
Yes,
you know.
That I don't want the church to exist.
Now they don't make a big issue of that these days, but but on the other hand, like I said, you know, my problem is because some of the atheists are actually very anti-religious. Doesn't matter which religion, Christian, Jew, Muslim, just believing in God. You know, as I said, the minister called my interreligious event, which had Muslims, Hindus,